What I have here is a Zama C3 carburetor. I'm going to take apart, rebuild. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the jets, the high and the low jet. The low jet will be the closest towards the throttle of the carburetor, which is this one here. And I take, set these parts aside. And what I do is I put them in something that I mark high and low for the jets, so I don't lose track of which is which. And we're going to take the fuel pump diaphragm side off here first. Try not to lose all the little screws. Probably should have pre-loosened everything. Make it a little bit quicker on the video. Now we have that side off there, and you'll notice that it's in the correct order. It's the gasket next to the pump body, and the last thing that goes on next to the metal is the pump diaphragm. Okay, so we're going to set that stuff aside. We know what order that goes into, and then we see inside here the metering lever rod, the needle and spring underneath, and the keeper screw that holds the rod and everything in place. Time for a bigger screwdriver on that one. So when we take this out, I have to hold my finger over everything here. So like I said, there's a spring under there. Don't want everything flying out under control. So with that out, very carefully let everything loose and dump it out. And there you have your metering lever with the rod through it, your shut-off needle, and your spring, and that's everything out of that side right there. And these springs you want to be careful with. They're specific to the pressure needed for the carburetor. They're like carburetor specific, and they don't include them in the kit usually, so you want to be careful not to lose it. Then I'm going to take the fuel pump side off. That one I already loosened, so we're good there. And okay, you're going to see this is in the correct order also. The diaphragm, the fuel pump diaphragm next to the metal body on this one, and the gasket is the last thing to go on. Now these come in two different, sometimes in a kit you'll get two different fuel pump materials. You'll get this plastic one here, it seems to be a little bit stiffer, or you will get a black rubber one like this one here. Now they say that the only difference is for the type of fuel. Now I like the black ones better myself. I don't know why, but that's what I prefer to use. So I've got the metering jets out. I've got the fuel pump the diaphragm side out, and the fuel pump side out. So that's basically all the parts that'll come out of that. And one of the things I like to do before I stick it in the ultrasonic cleaner is I like to take a tie wrap and tie wrap open the throttle to just to make everything flow through there easier while it's being cleaned. Next up, the ultrasonic cleaner. What I use in my ultrasonic cleaner is water, this size cleaner, about 5 tablespoons of purple power and 3 or 4 tablespoons of ammonia, and I'm going to stick this carburetor in, and what I'll be doing is I'll be changing directions about every cycle, and I'll probably put this through for half a dozen 480-second cycles. And it's just a matter of the timer, turning it on and hitting the power and letting it go. Okay, 6 cycles on all 6 sides in the ultrasonic cleaner, 480-second cycles. Now I'm going to take and I'm going to hose this thing down with the carb cleaner. I'm going to put a little nozzle in every little hole that goes someplace, all over the carb. Every place I can stick that little nozzle, I'm going to be sticking that little nozzle. And needless to say, that needs to be done outside and with eye protection, because no matter what you do, it always seems to squirt up into your face. So outside ventilation, eye protection, and be careful. I usually don't take the Welch plugs out of these, and this one it goes right here, because when you're cleaning with the carb cleaner, if you spray in the low speed hole, you'll be able to see fuel come out of the little intake ports inside the throat of the carburetor. I got this carb, this one was out, so I have one that came with the kit here, so I'm going to have to put that in before I go any further on assembling the little Zamacarb. Now that it's all blown out with carb cleaner and dry, I'm going to start with the fuel pump side. On this side, it's the fuel pump diaphragm itself, and then the gasket, and then the cover. When you look at the fuel pump gasket, if I can show it here, these little tabs are the little valves, and they line up with holes in the carburetor body. This area here is the actual fuel pump itself. These are just the valves that make it go up and down, up and down. Make sure you have this on properly with, all the holes lined up. It'd be pretty obvious. If you flip it around a couple of times and see, you'll be able to tell which way is the right way on there. So that's the way it goes on, with the gasket and the cover on top. And what I like to do is take everything, flip it over, and then put it together. So with everything lined up on the cover as it's supposed to go, take the carburetor, turn it over, the little pins line up in the little holes. That's self-explanatory. Can only go on one way. And then the screw to hold the cover on tight. Now, I mentioned before, as I took the high and low needle out, that I like to keep track of what goes where, and I marked them in holes they go. But one of the things you'll notice, low is always longer than the high-speed jet. Come on, get up there. Alright, so low is always longer, and that's always the one that's closest to the throttle itself. So that goes that way, and that goes that way. Now these fit through this cute little thing, and get inserted in there. I'm just going to set this in, just going to set these in for now. I don't want to tighten them down, because no matter what you do, things seem to move, and they'll need readjusting. When it goes on the carburetor, when the carburetor goes on the saw, then I'll bottom them out gently and turn them each out 1 1/4 turns. So now that leaves the fuel metering side. We have the little lever. Everybody's always concerned about that lever. What I do, I can watch myself do this here. I start out with it nice and straight. I look at that thing, get it nice and straight. Oh, almost forgot something here. Nope, didn't forget anything. Okay. The next thing is to make sure the little lever swings freely on its little rod. If that sticks, well, you're going to be out of luck. Now, for the fun part, the assembly of all of this. I'll take the little spring, which there it is, likes to go sprawling, and I'll set that inside its little hole. Okay, then I take the needle and lever, or the lever and the rod, and I'll hook the needle onto it. I grab a hold of the whole mess. On the bottom of this lever is a little nub here. That little nub is supposed to fit into the hole on the spring. See? Oh, it's starting to fall apart already. Takes like 2 hands to do this, to get that little knob in the hole of the spring and the needle down in the hole where it goes, and press it down in, push the rod over into its slot, then you have to grab the screw while you're holding that down and put the screw in. Now, if you did everything right, once this is tight, your little lever should bounce up and down nicely, like that. On this little Zamacarb here, the inlet needle sits in a dished out area. As you can tell, this is made to sit above everything. Some of them have a cutout and they'll sit down in. Those adjust differently. On this one here, where it's all dished out, you have to take a straight edge across the top over the long end of that needle, and there should be approximately 10 to 12 thousandths clearance. So you have to take that and you have to eyeball it, because if you try to stick something in there, it's going to move the lever. If the lever is too high, you have to lift up on the long end of the needle to get the adjustment you need. If it's too low. If it's too high, you hold down on the long end and you push in on the needle end instead of the other way around. So if it's too high, push down on the long end, push down on the needle end. If it's too low, then you can pry up a little bit on the needle end. So I'm going to take and adjust this, because it might take me a minute or so to get it the way I like it. There, I've got a pretty good eyeball for 10 thousandths. It's basically, if you put your straight edge across there and it doesn't touch, and you can look and see just a little bit of daylight, you're pretty much good to go on that. So then on this side, it's gasket first. These have little punch out holes that line over these little pins, and you can see like this, it doesn't align with the screw holes, so it must be the other way, or one of the other ways. With the gasket, thick gasket on next to the carburetor body, the next part that goes on is the metering diaphragm itself. There's 2 sides to this. Notice this side has no nub on it at all, and this side has the little nub which pushes down on your metering lever diaphragm, and that lines up on the pins and goes on as it should with the metal cover on top of that. And that's about it. The carb's been cleaned, washed out with carb cleaner. Metering lever has been adjusted. The idle and the low speed and the high speed will adjusted to 1 1/4 or 1 1/8 turns out when it's on the saw just before starting. Good luck.